Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Think Big podcast. I want to make sure I got the comments over here on the side so I can read. Guys, if you're joining us live right now, do me a favor. Go ahead and comment where you're joining in from. Good to see you, Joel. I already see you on the YouTube. Sydney, what's up? Let's go. Sydney is back. If you are hanging out with me on Instagram, this counts as my live. If you guys know, I'm doing 30 days of nonstop going live on Instagram every single day. So right now I'm counting this officially as day 3. So if you're on the Instagram and you want to come over to the YouTube channel, just comment the word YouTube. My Instagram will send you a link to our YouTube channel. I'm not going to lie to you though. It's going to connect you to last week's episode because I haven't had the opportunity to set up the automation to get you present on today's episode, but I'm sure you'll be able to find your way over to today's episode. So I see a ton of people tuning in on the IG live. I see, every day I'm hustling. What's going on, Jason? Just a lot of people. Terry Savage is on the IG, but guys, come over to the YouTube channel. Sam Singh, my brother from another mother. What's going on, bro? How you feeling today?
Doing good, dude. I apologize for being a couple minutes late here, but I'm good, dude. Things are freaking amazing, bro. We're breaking records across all the things, and I'm so stoked. And I love where we're at right now, the end of this year, coming up on how many days we got left? What, like
Not even
27, 28 days?
Third. Yeah, today's the third. How many days? Are there 30 days in December or
31? 31. I think, let me check. There's 31. Yeah, it always goes to 31. I'm excited, man, because like we're in a moment where we're like Q1 starts now, in my opinion. It started
Agreed.
minimum 3 days ago. And so, man, we are gassing. We are just absolutely just relentless right now. And we're not going to let go of Q4. Like, we are going to milk this for everything it's worth. And I'm loving it, dude. Let's do this. 4 life lessons. Guys, I want to say this really quick. I'm so sorry, Marlon. I got to say this. I love when, guys, today's going to be like, it's going to be one of those days where I just get to kind of sit back and listen to the wisdom that Marlon has. Because you guys know Marlon's like, 25 years old, but he's got the wisdom for some reason of like a 92-year-old man who's lived 9 different lifetimes. And so today's going to be epic because I get to sit back and listen and learn. And it's cool, man, because you allow me to not have to think about things as tactically as I do. And you allow me to take a huge step back and kind of just see the world for what it really is. So I'm excited, man. 4 major life lessons with Marlon freaking Johnson. And bro,
what's up,
that
bro?
plant, you've got a plant behind you now.
We are stepping it up in the studio, bro. Like, things are coming together at Mindset Manor. If people aren't here, then you're missing out. Like, shout out to Rashida. I see Sheeta 3 in the chat. 31 days. She's saying, by the way, I got to introduce you to Sheeta one day because she is someone that blew my mind. She's the reason I'm going live every day on Instagram, because a year and a half ago, Sheeta decided to go live every day. She's consistently went live for 15 months without missing a day. Through COVID, through pandemic, like through herself catching COVID, went live every day for 15 months. So shout out to Sheeta. But yeah, we're stepping up things in the podcast studio, having some fun around here. We are back in a good season. You guys know I was down and out for the count last week. Unfortunately, came down with a bit of the flu here at the house, and I'm back. So,
dude, I love this. Last thing I want to say is this: one, you do sound better. I tuned into one of your Instagram lives the other day. You were I feel like you were a little bit more stuffy then, so you're sounding a lot better, which I'm glad to see. Two, anyone who's listening, right? Sheeta, I've heard amazing things about you, especially from Marlon. Here's a reality for anyone that wants to know this. We always want to level up our circle and level up our friendship. You know what I'm realizing? And I think you and I understand this. I think Sheeta understands this. I think there's people who understand this. They don't understand this the way they should. A lot of times we think that if you want to level up your circle to better people, you pretty much have to go and start making more money, right? And it's very often that's not the case. I think the biggest filtration mechanism that people have at higher levels is simply how relentless are you in your consistency? So when I hear she went live for 15, bro, 30 days of live is going hard. 15 months is freaking mind boggling, right? And it's one thing to like do that and, just do it out of relentless grit is phenomenal. So if you guys want to gain the respect of people above you, they really don't give a crap about how much money you make because you're not going to pay their bills. They really don't. They care about like, what are you made of? Like, do you have that grit? And consistency is the best way to prove grit. I don't care what anybody says. It's why we are 110 weeks into Think Big podcast without missing. Okay,
Dude,
I'm done.
I love it, man. And just so you know, because the consistency, just so you guys know what it did produce for Sheeta, and this is why you should be like, damn, she did what? After those 15 months, Sam, when I met her, she had about 6,000 followers on Instagram on just one platform. She has over 110,000 followers, all organic, all engaged, all people that she gives value to on the daily. So I like to give flowers where flowers are due. Shout out to Sheeta 3. Let's jump into it. Guys, tonight we're visiting some major life lessons. This is absolutely a notebook, notepad, pen and paper sort of situation. So pull that out, be a note taker. Note takers are money makers. Also, before I dive into it, just shout out to Jason. Jason said on Instagram, he said, Q4 will be my biggest quarter ever. And Jason is a dude who's taken down $70,000, $80,000 assignments. So for him to say that Q4 is going to be his biggest assignment, his biggest year, his biggest quarter ever, shout out to Jason. Jason Lombardi is a phenomenal human being, a great friend, and super proud of you, brother. So I love surrounding myself with people like that. Now, let's bring it back to what we're going to be talking about. Today's YouTube live is inspired by a conversation I had over the weekend. So, Sam, you may know this. The Mindset Manor recently got some new additions. My videographer, Ben, moved in, and also a really good buddy of mine, Jonathan, he moved in. And over the weekend, Jonathan and I sat down, and I really got to dive deep into his story. And he's got a crazy story. You guys are going to hear about that on a future podcast. However, he was explaining to me that when he was in his season of a rock bottom, he found himself doing what many of us do. You start seeking guidance and expert advice outside of yourself. And it landed him to one of both of ours early mentors, a gentleman by the name of Jim Rohn. And Jim Rohn is an OG in the space of personal development. I mean, if you've ever had your life benefited from the likes of Tony Robbins, Ed Milet, Dean Graziosi, Les Brown, any of these people, they are all descendants of Jim Rohn. And so when he brought that up, it made me reflect on some of the lessons I learned from Jim Rohn. And I was going through my notes, Sam, and I was looking at, well, what were some of the things that were absolute catalysts for change for me, and things that I still use today, things that I learned 5, 7, 8, 9 years ago and applied through the last 5 years of business that I still apply now. And that's where I came back with these 4 major life lessons. So I'm telling people this because I like to give credit where credit's due. These are lessons I learned from Jim Rohn, and these are lessons that Jim Rohn learned from his mentor. And I want to pass them on to y'all tonight. So grab pen and paper, grab your friends. If you know friends who need to hear a positive message, get them on this call tonight. Share the YouTube right now. Don't wait till later. Get them here live with you right now. And let's begin. So the first thing I'm going to need you guys to write down, I need everybody to write these 2 phrases down. The first phrase, and I'm actually just going to combine it. Let's just make it one phrase. The phrase goes like this, that life and business are like the changing seasons. Life and business are like the changing seasons. You can't change the seasons, but you can change yourself. And I'm going to expand on this, I promise you. But I just want you to have that for your notes, because later tonight, you're going to come back to that, and that's going to make even more sense than it already does. That life and business are like the changing seasons, and you can't change the seasons, but you can change yourself. See, the reason I say life and business are like the changing seasons is because there's something interesting about the seasons. They're inevitable, and there's nothing you could do to stop them. I mean, here's the interesting thing, and I want you guys to throw the answer in the chat for me. If we're following a clock, we're following a calendar, we're moving forward like we always do, what season comes after winter? I want you guys to put the answer to that in the chat. What season comes after winter? What is the answer to that? There's one correct answer. I want to know it. Put it in the chat. What season comes after winter? I already see some of my people on Instagram answering that question correctly, which I love it. But I want to see the people on YouTube answer that question correctly, right? Yeah, Diana on Instagram got it. Deborah on Instagram got it. There we go. Deborah on YouTube got it. She says spring. This is an interesting fact. Spring comes after winter. And how often does that happen? It happens every single year with regularity, at least for the last 100,000 that we could record. There's nothing I could do to change it. I can't stop spring from coming after winter. And so, what I want you to understand, and I want to make this clear before we continue, is that the seasons are going to happen in the order that they happen without your ability to stop it. And we're not here to stop it, right? I don't want to stop it. Instead, I want to understand these life lessons to learn how to work with the seasons, because I said it before, your seasons are going to be like your business and your life are like the changing seasons. So let's get into these 4 major life lessons. And the first lesson we're going to start with, I want you guys to write this down. Lesson number 1. Lesson number 1 is you have to learn how to handle the winters. First lesson, learn how to handle your winters. What's that mean, Marlon? Oh my gosh, great question, Sam. I love that. What does it mean to learn how to handle your winters? Well, winters are inevitable. And what is a winter season? Let's just define this for a moment. A winter season is the season where you don't have enough money, a season where you don't have enough intelligence, a season where you don't have enough skills, a season where you're confused, you're lost, you just lost your job, your girlfriend or your boyfriend just broke up with you. The nights are extremely long and your heart is broken. That's winter season. It's inevitable. It will happen to every single person at some point. These are all signs of winter seasons. Now, it doesn't mean they all happen all together, all at the same time, right? Like, this isn't an old country song, but these things are going to happen. And so what we have to do is we've got to learn how to handle winter. It's not about changing winter, right? I can't go to my calendar and say, you know what, I don't want to go deal with winter this year and rip January off the calendar. It doesn't work that way. I can't get rid of winter by ripping January off the calendar. But what I can do is I can learn how to handle winter. And so how do we handle winter? Pay attention to this. You get stronger. You get smarter. You get faster. You get better. See, winter is a season for improving yourself. Pay attention. Look back on your old history, your own personal case study. Think back to when you were younger and maybe you got your heart broken, you got out of a bad relationship, and maybe she dumped you or he dumped you. And you thought to yourself, after you went through that winter season, as you were coming out of it, you thought to yourself, you know what? I'm never going to let that happen to me again. I'm never going to be embarrassed that way again. Maybe you didn't get picked for the basketball team. That was the winter season. I'm never going to be embarrassed. And what did you do? You reinvented yourself. You used that time. You used that as fuel to go in and to gain new skills, to gain a new personality, to gain new characteristics, to level yourself up like you've never done before. Also, a dog just burst into this room. So you want to use winters to reinvent yourself in that way. Come back stronger. And here's the interesting thing. When winter times roll around, a lot of people start to pray, Jade. They'll start to pray, I wish winter was easier. Like, say, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, why couldn't this be easier? Why couldn't real estate wholesaling be easier? Why couldn't it be investing in the stock market to be easier? Why couldn't crypto be easier? I just wish it was easier. Here's the interesting thing about wishing things were easier. It's a mistake. Don't wish for things to be easier. Because if things were easier, here's the reality of what happens if things become too easy. It becomes accessible for everybody. Everybody's able to make it. Could you close the door all the way? Thank you. If it becomes too easy, everybody can do it. And if everybody's able to do it, it's overpopulated, it's oversaturated. It actually becomes less valuable. When everyone has equal access and equal capacity to just pull it in, it becomes less valuable because now anybody can have it at any moment in time. The reality is the dreams that you want, the life that you want, the things that you desire, you want them to be difficult. You want it to be hard. You want the girl that you want to go after or the guy that you want to go after. Do you want them to be easy or do you want them to be hard? Think about that for a second. If that girl was easy, that's typically not a good thing. If that position at the job were easy to get, everybody would be going for it. You would have more competition. So instead of wishing things were easy, what do we wish for? We wish we were better. That's what we focus on. Don't focus on trying to change the season. Don't try to make winter easier. Make yourself more capable to handle winter. It's a mental reframing where you need to come from with this. a mental reframing. Okay, cool. So we're understanding how to handle winter. That's lesson one. That's the first season. We've got to be able to understand and work with winter season. But beautifully, what comes after winter? We got spring. So springtime comes after winter. And I mean, gosh, what a good place to put it. I mean, like if you're going to put spring anywhere, what a great place to put it. Put it after the hard stuff. Put it after the brutality. And so lesson 2 for spring is learn how to take advantage of spring. You got to learn how to take advantage of the spring. And I really want you to underline, if you're taking notes, I want you to underline the words take advantage. Underline take advantage. Because spring is what? Spring is a time of opportunity. Spring is a time where new growth is occurring. Spring is a time where things are beginning to blossom. Spring is a time where the weather and the soil will now take seed more easily. And although opportunity is abundant and available, there's no guarantee that the opportunity is yours. I'm just being honest, right? Just because it's spring doesn't mean you're going to win. You don't win automatically because of spring. I mentioned this a few weeks back that I heard John Maxwell speak, and he said something to me that I've been loving. He said, getting older is automatic. Getting better is not. Springs are automatic. You are guaranteed to get springs. You are guaranteed to be alive during seasons of opportunities. Interest rates are low, crypto's high, all the things. Like you are alive during these times, but it's no guarantee that you are going to be the benefactor of these amazing opportunities. Why? Because spring still requires you to do something. Right? Like I want you to write down on your notes, like I still need to do something. I need to do work. I need to take action in order to capitalize on the spring. And here's the sort of action you need to take, right? There's 2 things that you're going to have to get good at. One of these 2 things, actually, just one of these 2 things. You either need to get really freaking good at planting seeds in the spring, or you need to get really freaking good at begging in the fall. You're going to be doing one of those things. You're either planting in the spring or you're begging in the fall. Which one do you want to get good at? And so spring season is the season for sowing. This is the time where now that you've reinvented yourself and like, let's say you said, I'm stepping into my business. Great. What's the skill that you're going to be sowing on? Some of you, that skill is I'm becoming a closer. Some of you, that skill is I'm becoming a leader. Some of you, that skill is I'm hiring, I'm delegating, I'm writing my systems, whatever it is. You've got to pick a skill and begin to plant the seeds for that skill. Plant the seeds for that version of your life. Because what's interesting is you only get a handful of springs. That's the reality. Springs are limited. They're not infinite. You don't have an infinite amount of chances. And I know, Marlon, you're the positive mindset guy. You're not supposed to talk like this. Marlon, you're supposed to be all happy-go-lucky, shoot rainbows out your butt. Guys, I'm also a realist. I'm positive. I'm optimistic. I can guarantee you I am probably one of the most optimistic people you will ever meet. And at the same time, the reality is I understand that springs are limited. Time is passing, and I won't have the same opportunities forever. Just think back to the fact that when you were 16, 17, 18 years old, that was a spring season of life, for example, where you may have been able to physically do certain things. You could have rolled out of bed, went outside on a 10-mile run, stayed out all night till 3 o'clock in the morning, drinking with your friends, woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning and been back at practice. Spring season. You had amazing opportunities during that time of your life. If you're in your 30s, I guarantee you can't do it the same way anymore. And it's not a sad thing. You don't sit back and wish to be in the old spring. 30s come with a new spring. Your 40s are going to come with a new spring. Your 50s are going to come with a new spring. We're all spring chickens. Some of us have just seen more springs. And so take advantage of your springs when you have them because they're not forever. You've got to move with them with a sense of urgency. You got to have urgency. One of our mentors, Bobby Castro, he said, how are you spending your non-refundable minutes? You got to ask yourself that question. How am I spending my non-refundable springs? What if you only had 14 springs left? Would you still be wasting the spring the way you have been? Probably not. Not if you put it into context that I only have 14 of these left. That's not a lot of springs. Awesome. So we know what to do in winter. We know what to do in spring. What comes after that? We got our summertime. Summertime, baby. Okay, so check this out. Here's the interesting thing with summer. Summer is what we have to do in the summer is we've got to learn to take care of our crops in the summer. In the summer season, we got to learn how to take care of our crops. Marlon, what the hell does that mean? It's like, you remember that Kobe commercial where Kobe said to Kanye, he was like, "Are you the same beast but a different animal?" And Kanye was like, "Kobe, what does that even mean?" That's how I feel people think when I say in the summertime, we got to learn to take care of our crops. So I'm going to put it into simple language. In the summertime, you've got to learn to finish what you started. The summer season is all about finishing what you started. We started this off I congratulated Rashida, for example, who said she set up her mind, I was going to go live every day. She saw that all the way through to the end, 15 months later. What I didn't mention was when she said she was going to go live every day, she was only talking about doing it for 30 days. So she more than completed the task. And as a result, there was a major payoff for it. And we'll get into the payoff. She committed herself to completion. A lot of people speak about excellence in this and excellence in that, and I want to have excellent service, but like they don't actually ever define excellence. I learned a definition of the word excellence by a gentleman by the name of Paul Hudsey. Paul Hudsey had run an insurance brokerage company back in the 80s and 90s. He, with a marketplace of only about 30,000 customers, like he was in a small rural town out in Kansas, he became one of the largest insurance brokers in the entire US in a very small territory, in a very small market. Paul Hudsey was a freaking monster. He was a goat. Most people never heard that name before. And Paul Hudsey used to teach all of his sales reps that they are to perform with excellence, and excellence was defined as a commitment to completion. He defined it, right? Like this is what his team, this was the standard set for the team, that if you start something, doesn't matter what it is, you see it all the way through until the end. Now, obviously, if I'm now committed to seeing things through all the way to the end, I'm going to be a lot more careful about what I say I'm going to do. If I understand that when I say I'm going to do it, I have to see it all the way through. And so the summer season, when we talk about protecting our crops, we're talking about this commitment to completion on the things we start, on the seeds that we plant in the spring. When you said, "Hey, I'm going to start doing this stupid challenge," awesome. I don't care what stupid challenge you're doing, and most of them are stupid. At least see them through to the end. The issue is that not the challenges are broken. A lot of these challenges out there, I'm going to be honest, a lot of them do work, but only for 1% of the people. Why? Because only 1% of the people actually follow through and do the work when no one else is watching. They actually commit to completion. That's an individual thing. That's an individual thing. And so recognize and understand this. This is something about how the world works. Again, I'm an optimist. My name is Marlon. I'm your friend. I'm your friend. I promise you, I'm your friend. I'm an optimist. I understand that all good will be attacked in this world. All the things that are good in this world are going to be attacked. Your garden is going to be attacked. Not if, when. When will it happen? It will happen. It will be inevitable. And so you have to protect your garden. If you think to every movie you've ever watched, you see the birth of the superhero. Spider-Man, Iron Man, Thor, doesn't matter who it is, you see their origin story. And at the same time, we all know, we've watched enough of these movies to understand that at the origin of the superhero, another character is also being built at the same time, the supervillain. A supervillain is created for every superhero because in this world, maybe in another world it doesn't work like this, but in this world, in this universe, in this reality, all things come with their opposite. And so all the good that you put in, there's also equal bad. And that bad is coming to trample your garden. So you have to stand guard of your garden. And what's so interesting about it being in a summer season, here's the interesting, and this is why I love this analogy of the seasons. The days in summer are so much longer. Right? You have early mornings and late nights. You have so much more sunshine. The sun is beating on you the hardest. This is summertime. And during that season, right, when it's long, when it's drawn out, AKA when you are bored, when the excitement is gone, when you're overheated and overworked and you're ready for rest, you have to stand guard because your job isn't done yet. Commitment to completion. This is summertime. This is the season. The test of summer is, can you stay vigilant? Can you protect the good? Can you protect the good from distractions? Can you protect the good from the doubt? Can you protect the good from the FOMO, from your friends, from your family? Can you protect the good? Can you stand up for your dream all throughout summer? Because if you do, then, my friends, you get to enter into the next season, which we all know after summer comes fall. And now the lesson for the season of fall. Check this out. John, in fall, what we learn to do is we learn how to reap without complaint. In fall season, you learn how to reap without complaint. Without complaint for what? Without complaint for if your harvest is little. Because a lot of people start to blame when the fall season comes and the reaping season comes, and there's not a lot at the harvest. There's not a lot to pull in. And they start to complain and they start to blame and they start to say it's the market fault. It's the PPC. It's my guru. He sucked, or the community didn't help me, or nobody answered my calls, or these people weren't picking up, and they blame. If you want to blame somebody, there's only one individual to blame in the fall if your harvest is weak. And that person could be found in the mirror. The only person you could possibly blame. So when fall time rolls around, you got to learn to reap without complaint. And at the same time, you also have to learn to reap without apology. Don't ever apologize for doing well. When fall rolls in and you've got plentiful harvest, don't say sorry. Don't apologize for the fact that, because your harvest, your fall, is going to depend on what you did with your winter, spring, and summer. And so when there's a large harvest, that's a result of what you did with the earlier seasons. It's a result of what you did with those earlier months. It's a result of all the action you took in previously. Don't ever apologize for that. Fall's an interesting time. And the reason I like using the analogy of it all being a season too, and all of it being cyclical, is because no matter how great the harvest is, no matter how amazing, how bountiful, how good you did. Like, I love my homie Jason. Like, shout out to Jason Lombardi. He said this Q4, great harvest. Great. He's in a great fall season. He's pulling in the most he's ever pulled in ever. Amazing. What comes after fall? Winter. There's going to be another winter. And again, our job here isn't to avoid the winter. It's to prepare for the winter. It's to get stronger and harder. It's to grow more resilient, because as he steps into this new level, there's another new winter there for him. There's an amazing winter there for him. And what happens is when you're able to recognize and understand the seasons and the way they work, you stop trying to run from them. Instead, you adjust yourself accordingly, depending on what season you're in. And you're going to be in different seasons in your life and in your business at different time frames. See, what you might find in a single week, you go through all 4 seasons. Listen, in your business in a single week, you may go through all 4 seasons. But when you also scale out, you may find that, hey, although this week we went through all 4 seasons, this month, the month of December, was actually a spring season for our business. So the entire month was a spring season, but within this week, we experienced the entire cycle. But inside the entire year, you might find that the year of 2024 was actually a winter year. And so being able to be aware of what season you're in and inside of what time frame will allow you to communicate with yourself properly. It will allow you to communicate with your team properly. It will allow you to adjust your sales properly. And ultimately, it allows you to stay consistent. See, a lot of people fall off because they're unaware and they don't know how to identify the season that they're in. And so they begin to make the mistake of feeling that when they're in winter season, they make the mistake of believing I'm supposed to be in a a harvest season. I'm supposed to be in a fall season. Why? What's the reality of social media? What season are most people showing on social media? They're only showing the fall. Maybe on occasion they also show the spring, but that's about it. They show when they get access to a new opportunity and when they close the opportunity. Who's really showing the in between? And who's showing the downside? Nobody. And I'm not saying that anyone on social media needs to switch it up. By no means do you need to start showing the downside. Do you need to start? You don't need to do any of that stuff. It's your social media. Live it how you love it. Just understand, though, if you're one of the individuals that you've been watching the social media platform and you're now starting to realize, you know what, that's right. I have only seen a 4-year streak of fall, of harvest for this individual. And I've been confusing myself to believe that there's something wrong with my life because I'm not in a consistent harvest. Neither is that person. It's called scheduling post. It's called framing the brand. Nothing wrong with it. They're creating an image. They're creating a show. They have a certain intention with the reality of what they're creating. You just need to understand how to adjust yourself accordingly. And so these seasons, these lessons, I want you guys to take with you. That's the part one. That's the part one of these lessons. By the way, if you guys are getting value from this, do me a favor, drop some fire emojis in the chat. I see Jade dropping the fire. Like, guys, I get like words of affirmations. And when people engage with the content, this is how I know what I'm saying is resonating and how I know where we need to go. When we're just on the computers and it's just Sam and I don't know. I can't reach through the computer and touch you guys. So when you engage in the comments like Sean is doing, Sean's dropping fire emojis, I know that this is resonating with you. All right. So Melvin's dropping some fire. I love it. Jade's dropping fire, saying so good. Karen's dropping fire. Gerald's saying fire. Beautiful. Okay. So people are engaging. This is making sense to y'all. So with that being the case, and I wrote some notes here, Sam. Sam, is it cool if I share some more things from my notes that I wrote down?
This is so good, dude. I'm literally on page 3 on my iPad now. I really want to ask this question. It's been bugging me, and I need to ask this question because I think it's going to be really helpful for people.
Is it about my tree?
No, it's not about your tree. We can talk about your tree later. Okay. You mentioned this, right? When we're observing people who have a very curated social media feed, right? And we're looking at our business, and our business is shit right now, and we feel that, right? Here's the thing that I've kind of learned this through myself and my own experiences in life. It's that when you're in the moment, it is really hard to pull yourself out of that moment. It is really hard to get yourself, especially out of the negativity, right? And how do people, you mentioned this thing where you're like, when you scale out, right? In a week, you feel all the seasons. You feel it because you're right there in the moment, feeling it. You have no insulation. You have no distance. And you use this, and it clicked for me when you said, when you scale out enough and you see it as the season it is, here's what ends up happening. It allows you to remove that emotional connection very often when you zoom out enough. I know one of my mentors talks about it this way. He's like, every time he feels emotional about something in a negative capacity, or anyone around him feels emotional, he says, hey, if you were like on a space station and you were looking at the earth, your problems disappear because you zoom out enough. So for everyone here, let's say their businesses aren't going great. Let's say they have a fight with their spouse. Let's just say someone posted something on social media where they got 25 deals and this, that, and the other. They see a highlight, and for whatever reason, because they can't stop comparing themselves, they feel like shit. How can they take that step away? How can they zoom out and remove themselves?
Dude, such a good question. And so this is why I'm explaining this now and going into detail and really talking about this. When we start to have understanding that these cycles are a part of it, we can begin to anticipate. This is something that what was the gentleman's name? The original creative finance guy, Robert G. Allen. Robert G. Allen actually understood this so well that he taught all of his students to anticipate the issues and challenges that were going to come so that when they arise, they didn't abandon ship. And so with this, knowing that winter, right? Because when people start talking shit about your business, when you start to run into problems with employees, when you start to feel incompetent or you lose a major deal that you really needed to work through and you needed to have it happen, but it falls apart because of your lack of skill, knowledge, or whatever it is, that's a winter season. If you know winters are coming, you understand, okay, I have to weather the storm. I've got to ride this out because after winter, if I commit to riding the winter out, the next spring comes, the next opportunity comes. And this reminds me back to the story Alex Hormozy shared about when he was the leader of the fraternity, when he was like a VP or whatever it was in his frat. And he had all the freshmen and they're going through their traditional hazing and, they're getting in their introduction into the frat. And at some point, they all come to him one day. They all kind of like gang up on him and they're like, we've had it. We're done, man. Like, you guys are the upperclassmen. You guys are bullying us and this isn't fair. And all the nonsense. They're all complaining. And so Alex finally gets them to calm down. And he asks them, just out of curiosity, I hear you all, but out of curiosity, how many of you, when you were joining the fraternity, knew that there was going to be some form of hazing and initiation? Everybody's hand goes up. Cool. And how many of you thought that the hazing was going to be difficult, that this was going to be a difficult fraternity to get into, that there were going to be challenges? Everybody's hands go up. He says, okay, guys, this is what hard feels like. They all went quiet because he now gave understanding to the situation. See, when people don't understand the situation, their mind creates so much, it becomes uncontrollable. The mind literally unravels, and there is no end to the chaos that's created in the mind with a lack of understanding. But when understanding comes into play, what happens is borders come around the situation. And now things are contained. And now things can be figured out, and things can be fixed, and things can be worked through because it's not infinite anymore. It's becoming finite. And then now when we're able to have greater perspective, like you mentioned, being in the space station and being able to pull back and having a different perspective, a higher vantage point, you're able to understand, oh, this is just one winter inside of an entire lifetime of where I'm going, of the things I'm going to create. In fact, knowing that my story, anticipating that my story was going to have some down parts that make the story interesting, I'm able in the moment to recognize my winters, and even in those moments find joy, gratitude, and even entertainment in the fact that I'm living through the good old times. That, like, think about it. When we look back, the things that we look back as on the good old times in our life, it's when we're bumming around with our friends, when three guys are sleeping on one couch and we're renting one apartment together. It's when we're eating Taco Bell because we literally can't afford anything else. It's when we are laughing at the fact that, hey, dude, if we don't make money tomorrow, this business is out of business. It's those moments that we look back with the most fond memories. It's the good old times. But in the moment, those were our winters. What would it look like if in the moment we could recognize the winters as the good old times? I'm sorry, Sam. I didn't mean to cut you off there, bro.
No. Can I show you guys something? Like, I think is gonna be dope. I'm gonna step over here because you guys know I'm always in this room. I've literally I've become a multi-millionaire in this room, and it all started here in this room. Like, my entrepreneurial journey started here in this room, but it didn't start with real estate. That's what a lot of people don't know. Before I got into this, fun fact, like, the first entrepreneurial endeavor that I ever actually committed to in my life was, dude, like,
I'm so excited. I got no idea what you're about to share. I am so excited,
bro. And I keep these here still, and I'm not joking. It's the first thing I ever did. It's because YouTube showed me this. The first thing I've ever did, guys. These are all phone cases. These are all phone cases. And the first thing that I ever did as an entrepreneur was I tried drop shipping because, YouTube told me to. And I'm not joking, guys. There's literally over 1,500 phone cases in that closet. I've literally just never taken them out. And, like, I shit you not, these are all full of a ton of things. And here's the cool thing, guys. In the moment when we were doing this, we had no goddamn clue what we were doing. None. We had no idea how to market. We had no idea how to build a website. We had no idea how to even take product photos properly. We were just figuring it all out. And fun fact, Marlon, almost every single month that we were in business, we lost money doing it. And we were literally on the edge of just like, dude, if we lose money again this month, like this sucks, this doesn't work, or we suck, whatever, like we can't do this, right? And I remember, dude, we had a winter for like what felt like a year at least. And then we had our first profitable month. And I shit you not, dude, we made like $100 in profit. Okay.
Yeah.
Because we finally figured it out. One, we figured out not to drop ship and actually bring the stuff here. So it didn't take, 6 months for the customer to get their phone cases. And what we ended up realizing in that moment was, holy shit, that was winter. That was the proving ground that we needed to lose money every month for a freaking year to only have 1 month where we finally made $100. And that spark right there, guys, I'm not joking. It was one of the most critical moments in my life because that was the moment where I decided I am never going to go back to anything else, no matter what. And so even after we lost $1,000 or $2,000 a month, every month negative, and we were broke as shit, like we were literally getting like unemployment money to do this. This was like during the shutdown and all that kind of stuff, right? Went through a year of losing $2,000 a month with my partner. And we were like, shit, we can't keep this up. We have to go work a 9 to 5 again. I have to go back. And I couldn't do that mentally. I was struggling with this because Matt Higgins who's a really good friend of both of ours, a mentor of both of ours. He wrote the book, Burn the Boats. I figuratively burned the boats. And for me, if this didn't work, I would have to be the guy who burnt the boats and then got back on one and found one and had to live with that defeat. The moment we hit that day where we had a month and we finished and we looked at our little P&Ls on Excel because we thought we were good at bookkeeping, which we weren't. And we calculated, I'm like, holy shit, we made like $100. That was it. That was it. And I'm like, no matter what, I am never going back. And guys, from that moment on, this obviously did not work out. As you guys know, this did not work out very well. From that moment on, I found real estate. That was 3 years ago, almost to the date, November 1st, like 3 years and a month. And if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be here as a multi-millionaire right now. And I love that you said that, bro. And here's one thing that I want to add. Guys, keep a trophy of the winter. Keep a goddamn trophy. I've got too many trophies. I've got about 1,500 trophies in that closet, but keep a freaking trophy because if you get through it, I swear to God, everything can change. I'm so sorry. I had to say that. I had it. Like you just lit that for me.
First off, Sam, this is my first time ever even hearing that story. And what's going to be cool is I know anytime anyone ever comes and brings that up to you, that's going to mean one thing. It means they watched episode 110 of Think Big, which I'm just already stoked about the fact that if anyone ever comes up, it's like, yo, but Sam used to have the cell phone case. It's like, oh my gosh, you were there for episode 110. Historical day. And so that's cool. And something to add to that winter, because shout out to, again, Jason Lombardi. He shared, I got my Instagram opened over here. And to talk about winters, right? He just mentioned Q4 of this year is the biggest year period he's ever had in business, biggest quarter. He said in February of this year, he did 0 deals, absolutely nothing. So February was a winter season for him. February. So don't think that just because you've had success in the past and now things aren't working in this moment that you are busted, you are broken, and you are out of the game. No, you are just going through a winter again. You are going through another winter season. And here's the interesting thing about winter season, Sam. Don Rich, who's on here right now, shout out to Don. I love this man. He called me a few months back while I was running through America. I think I was just getting out of Kansas. And one morning as I'm running, I have him in my AirPods. And he said to me, Marlon, you want to hear something interesting? He said, are there trees around you? I said, yeah, Don, there are. He said, awesome. Look at those trees. He said, are they decently big? I said, I mean, they're probably 3 stories branching out nice and wide. He said, amazing. He said, what's interesting is right now you're looking at the surface of that tree and it's seeming large. It's probably bigger than a home. He said, but what you're not seeing is underneath the earth, there's a root system. There's another tree. And that other tree underneath the earth made up of the roots is equally big, if not bigger, than what you see above the surface. And he said the fascinating thing about that root system that is happening underneath the earth, he says, do you want to know the season, the time of year that those roots grow strongest? Winter. In the wintertime, where all the leaves are falling off, where the bark is coming down, where it's covered with snow, and it seems like the branches above ground are going to break from the weight and the winds are blowing, the roots beneath the ground are actually burrowing deeper and deeper and deeper, intertwining themselves with other roots, going deeper for more resources, pulling water from deeper in the earth, getting warmth from deeper in the earth. The tree itself is actually growing stronger in the wintertime, so that when the spring comes with the heavy rains, it's not washed away and it's not falling over. So that when the summer winds come through Kansas and the tornadoes roll around, those trees aren't uplifted because they have winter. See, people look at winter as a negative thing. Winter is actually the best opportunity, and life is paradoxical that way. The things that you often feel are the hardest parts, the things that you try to pray away, are actually the things that you prayed for because you asked for growth, because you asked to be better. Again, and this is why I think we appreciate Alex so much, because he's dropped fire before, and he was on Chris Williams' Modern Wisdom podcast. And on the podcast, he spoke about this concept that he thought over and over about, if my job were to be the creator of this universe and I was tasked with creating a strong man or a strong woman, a strong individual, what sort of situation, what sort of life, how would I go about creating that person, right? Like if I needed them to have strength, I probably wouldn't give them easy enemies. I would give them difficult enemies to go up against. If I wanted to teach them patience, I wouldn't just hand them things immediately as they asked for it. I would have them wait for the good they desire. If I were going to give them wisdom, I wouldn't give them easy problems to solve. I would give them difficult problems to fight with and to wrestle with, so that it caused them to have to think outside the box. If I was going to give them confidence, I would give them things that challenges to overcome that would undeniably define them for who they are. It'd make it uncontestable that they are who they are. And so many of you, again, you are in a season where you've asked, you've prayed, you said, I want to make my life better. Financial freedom, build churches, support the community, see things that no one else has ever seen, break generational curses. I'm going to be the one. This is why you have winters even more so, even tougher than some of your friends and families. Because here's the interesting thing. One more thing about this winter. I promise you, we're going to move off of the winter season. I promise. But one last thing on this winter. Some winters are going to be long. Some winters are going to be short. Some winters are going to be harsher. Some winters are going to be lighter. I can't predict how long your winters are going to be. However, recognize regardless, because you can't control. Don't try to control winter. Control the controllable. I made my Instagram say that 2 days ago. I said, control the controllable. And I was thinking about this precisely. Don't try to change winter. Don't try and change spring. Don't try and make fall last longer. Control what you can control. And that's working on you. You have the ability to change. You don't like your financial situation? Neither did I. Change it. You don't like your friends? Neither did I. Change it. You don't like the status of your relationship? Neither did I. Change it. You don't like the way your body looks? Neither did I. Change it. Whatever you don't like about your life, hell, you don't like where you live? Move. You're not a tree. You could get up and go. So change the things about your life that you don't like. Now, with all of this, and hopefully this is resonating with y'all. Hopefully this is going deep. I promised everybody that saw me on Instagram Live a few days ago that I made the saying that I was going to go live every day, that when I came online, I was going to share authentically. And I promised to be a broken record, to be a messenger for one key theme. And if you know what that theme is, go ahead and drop it in the comments. I'm going to say it anyway, but I just want to see who's been following me live on IG for these last few days to know the theme of 2025. Because to Sam's point, 2025 starts now. 2025 already started. The way I'm looking at December of 2024 is that this is my 30-day head start on all the fools who are waiting for January 1st. In fact, I started back in November. I started back in Q4. A good friend of mine, when I started my entrepreneurial journey 5 years ago, told me that only the idiots wait until January to get their year in order. He said, the rest of us, we get started in quarter 4. We know what's coming up already. And so Deborah's absolutely right. Gerald's absolutely right. The key word is focus. The theme of 2025 is focus. And when we talk about focus, let's break down the acronym for a moment. Follow one course until successful. Keyword 1. If there's one thing I can count on Sam for, is Sam constantly makes me come back to the one thing. Sam, I think the phrase I've heard from you the most in the last several months is the rule of one. You constantly make me come back to one thing. And so I now want to share the blessing that you've been sharing with me, with everybody else, making them come back to the one thing, focusing on just a single item. Because what happens is a lot of people make the mistake of believing that they can multitask and they could do multiple things and they could pursue multiple opportunities. And what's interesting about this, Sam, is I was doing some research last night because, again, I'm focused on this theme of focus. So I'm coming back to it over and over and over. And do you know the term multitasking is a very new term? It's a very new word. It actually didn't exist for all these years. It was just developed within the last few decades. And the word multitasking came about when the rise of computers hit the scene, and more so the computers having the ability to have stronger processors. And so the term multitasking was actually used among engineers. And when they talked about multitasking, and unfortunately they used the term multitasking, which created this thought, this idea that a machine could handle multiple things at the same time. But what actually multitasking defined was a machine was able to do multiple tasks leveraging a single resource, the CPU. So a CPU, the more powerful it became, had the capacity to run multiple tasks in succession, not at the same time, but it could do one task and then do the next task and then do the next task and then do the next task in a very short period of time, which made it look like to the human mind and to the human eye that multiple things were being done all at once. But in actuality, the computer and the human mind are built the same in the sense that they can only focus on one task at a time. And effectively, what a computer does is it does something called task switching. It will switch from one task to the next, and it will go back and forth, leveraging the same CPU as a resource. And so this was given the term multitask. And so people took that to believe, well, humans can multitask as well. And so then they start trying to do this nonsense in their business. They start trying to do this nonsense in their world. They start trying to do this nonsense in their life. And the reality is when a person tries to multitask, and if a person believes they're multitasking, I'll tell you what they're actually doing. They're actually doing multiple things poorly. They're actually doing multiple things poorly. That's what multitasking actually is. And so when I had that realization, I was like, wow, this is so fascinating. That multitasking, it's not a real thing. And so anyone that tries to convince you multitasking is real is probably poorer than you, right? They're probably not making a lot. Not even probably. Let me rephrase that. That's terrible language. They are definitely not making money. If a person is multitasking, they're just not. And somebody come prove me wrong. If you're in the comments, come prove me wrong. Show me your bank account and show me your life where you are multitasking. But what you find is great leaders, for example, people like Elon Musk, wealthiest man in the world, currently running 4 businesses. So this might seem like I'm contradicting myself, but let's actually pay attention because I've looked into this at such depth that Elon Musk, who's running Tesla, he's running SpaceX, who owns Twitter, who has the Boring Company, right? He has multiple things going on. Now he's a part of the presidential cabinet. And what you find from people who've worked with him directly, people who he's hired as coaches who've observed him and have written books about him, what they said was Elon is single-minded in all the things that he does. And he is built something like a computer in the sense that he seems to have an inhuman, a superhuman ability to task switch. But don't get it twisted. When he is focused on something, everything else is irrelevant. They said the night that he purchased Twitter, that's a big deal. First off, before he even purchased Twitter, I mean, the dude was on Twitter all the time. But then he now purchased the program. He now purchased the software. He purchased the company that allows humans to speak to each other unfiltered all across the world. That's a pretty big deal. They said the night that he bought it, he found himself back at the SpaceX company, back in the SpaceX factory, and they were working on a design, and there was a bolt, and they were working on the shape of the bolt, just a simple bolt. And Elon was so hyper focused on the shape and the design of the bolt that you would have had no clue that the purchase for Twitter even happened, to the point where the rest of the staff was thinking, oh, shoot, maybe Twitter didn't happen. Maybe it was false news, because he was that hyper focused on the one thing directly in front of him. Focus is a superpower. Focus is a muscle. It can be trained. It needs to be trained. You have to learn how to discipline your yeses and how to say no with confidence and conviction to everything else, regardless of the FOMO. Remember summer season. Summer season is about that commitment to completion. That's the season, quite frankly, where most people fall apart. People fumble their way through winter. People stumble their way into spring, but people fall off in the summer. People make a conscious choice to go and chase bunnies in the summer when they should be protecting their garden. And so, Sam, I love this topic. I could go so much deeper. In fact, I will be going deeper again. I'll be live again every day on Instagram talking about focus in particular, saying it a million different ways. But I just want to say thank you, Sam, for being one of the most consistent, growing, just intentional people that I have in my life. I freaking love you, bro. And tonight was fun. Thank you for letting me just have the mic and run on a rant with it.
Holy shit, dude. Holy shit. That's all I can say. Dude, you've been on a tornado of value today. I've got like 5 pages of notes, and I have to come back and rewatch this and probably just listen to it, because I think there's something special about, you know, just having you in an earbud listening to this message again. Bro, that was phenomenal. And I think that was so needed for so many people, even for me, and reminding me how we started off, right? You just validated and affirmed that like right now is the time absolutely to just pedal. It's just pedal to the metal. And that is it. It is, you do not let up right now. In fact, you double down, triple down, quadruple down. You do that, you will have the opportunity to capitalize in the spring. But that shit starts now. Guys, oh my God. I think we need a part 2. I would love to have a part 2. Because I think the people deserve it. And I think selfishly I want it. But I'm going to tell you guys what needs to happen though. Because dude, I've just been in the chat this whole time. This is the beautiful thing about like these types of days. I get to just sit back and listen to you and learn and also see the messages that click with people, right? There's things that you say that click with me, and there's things that you say that click with other people. And it's always cool to see the light bulbs go off in other people's heads. What I want to do is this, man. Jade wants it. I think Antonio wants a part 2. People, I think it's safe to say we should get a part 2 on this. Here's what needs to happen, though, for you guys to get a part 2. Number one, like Marlon went out of his damn way to do that today. And what was beautiful about all of that, man, was that I can tell when people are going and going and going and they're making it up as they go. And I can tell when someone is actually tactical and structured and intentional with every single word that's coming out of their mouths today. And for you today, that was so clear. And it was like, this is a fucking masterpiece. And I'm just like, holy shit, I wish I could speak half as good as this guy. Here's what needs to happen. If you guys want a part 2, because I sure as hell do, how many lessons did we get through? Because we're supposed to go through 4 major life lessons. I don't think we got through 4, bro.
No, dude. I actually made notes tonight for what I wanted to speak on, and we barely cleared 1 page.
Beautiful. Guys, he's got more pages. Here's what you got to do. You have to subscribe to Marlon. Like, forget me. Subscribe to Marlon. Like, that was beautiful. And that was eye-opening to me. And like, I'm going to go talk to one of my partners, business partners' ears off and tell them to go rewatch this. Subscribe to Marlon. And then here's the other big thing. I want you guys to take a screenshot, okay, of right now, or of Marlon's beautiful face when he was going on an absolute tear and there was a million fire emojis in the chat. And I want you to share that with the person, because we all know someone right now who has the potential to do more and they're letting up. They're letting up right now. I know those people. Marlon knows those people. And here's what, and I know that you guys feel this way. They piss you off the most because you know they have the potential to conquer all of their goals, all of their dreams. And the only thing that you wished is that they would live up to their own potential. Go and remind them that they need to work their asses off this winter, and let Marlon be the voice that does it by sharing this video with them. You do that. I think you do enough of that. Make sure to send it to them. Let me know. Let Marlon know. And then I hope we can get a part 2 and a part 3 and a part 4. Dude, that was beautiful.
Bro, I love you. Also, shout out to Jason Lombardi in the Instagram saying part 2. Guys, make sure if you have not already, subscribe to Sam. Sam is one of those people that I go to. And I mean this genuinely, bro. You are one of the most tactical friends I go to because you will always get me dialed back in and moving in the right direction. And get yourself a friend who's going to hold you into, like, they're going to keep pulling you back in. I love what you just said, the consistency, people that pull you back in. So, Sam, thank you. Guys, we will be back here next week for episode 111 of the Think Big podcast. We love you. We appreciate you guys. And we will see you here